At which point, everyone becomes stranded on an island where they come face to face with a sinister and shocking discovery that's been hidden from the world for decades. Okay, my pitch is Hollow Earth.
No, Evan, no! No!
It's Hollow Earth! Welcome back to the Breakroom, Jurassic World Rebirth, but not a reboot. You've got questions and we've got thoughts. Welcome to today's Q&A, a new Q&A series from the whole new Rockstars team answering questions live from viewers like you. Keep an eye on Twitch and YouTube as you may see us doing these a little bit more often on both platforms live at the same time. I'm Evan, and who better to kick off this new series with than the one and only Erik Voss.
Hi, everybody. Let's talk about Jurassic Park and Jurassic World and everything wonderful and weird about this franchise.
I'm so excited. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. I can't wait to go through this. I'm surprised we're getting details for this movie so early, and that it seems like it's been shot. You know?
They made a lot of progress with it, and it is going to be coming out in a stacked month of July 2025.
Yeah,
with Superman and with Fantastic Four: First Steps.
Oh my gosh.
The fact that 3 different studios are having their flagship movies coming out and this within 3 weeks of each other is just wild to me. We're gonna be eating good next summer.
Yeah, that is true. That's true. All right, so before we get into the business part of it, let's talk about the movie itself. Erik, take it away. Variety released this report last week, or earlier this week, right?
Yeah, so we've been hearing for the past few months that Gareth Edwards is going to be directing this, the 7th Jurassic Park movie, Jurassic World 4. He directed Rogue One and most recently The Creator, but this movie is going to be written, this next Jurassic Park movie, by David Koepp, who wrote the screenplay on the original. I think co-wrote it or co-conceived the story with Michael Crichton, who wrote the book of Jurassic Park and Lost World. Per Variety, they released this official summary in recent days saying the film will be set 5 years following the events of Jurassic World Dominion. 4 or 5 years, I'm not really sure about that. But the planet's ecology has proven largely inhospitable to dinosaurs. Surprise, surprise. Those remaining exist in isolated equatorial environments with climates resembling the one in which they once thrived. The 3 most colossal creatures within that tropical biosphere hold the key to a drug that will bring miraculous life-saving benefits to humankind. So, this movie's not a reboot. It is a continuation of where Jurassic World Dominion left off. And Evan, tell me what you remember from Jurassic World Dominion.
There's a lot of bugs.
Yes, there were.
A lot of bugs. There was a frozen lake. And, Blue. We love Blue.
Blue and Beta. Blue
and
has a little baby. Yeah, okay, so to recap, I think, just in as short a way as I can, where this franchise has gone. Jurassic Park comes out in '93, directed by Spielberg. Huge hit for several different reasons. Is perhaps the most game-changing film of its era.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, nothing says reverence more than the movie Babylon referenced it, where it just shows a clip of the dinosaur with all the numbers being on that shot.
Or the ACTG DNA
all that stuff.
Pairs.
Yeah, and incredible shot and an incredible movie. And I think, you're right, just completely game changing.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about specifically why it was game changing, but that it was the highest grossing movie for several years, or 4 years, I should say, because Titanic came out in '97 and bumped it from its top spot. But that says a lot about what Spielberg's achievement meant. And it wasn't just his achievement, it was a Lucasfilm production. George Lucas was involved with that. Kathleen Kennedy was involved with that. Frank Marshall was obviously involved with that. And David Koepp, Michael Crichton, Phil Tippett, the stop motion animator who worked in tandem with Dan Murren, who was the VFX supervisor. And this was the first movie that achieved these VFX abilities in the way that they would be used for thereafter. If you watch the 2017 Spielberg HBO documentary, they just have this montage of all these people who I just named going one after the other. They were like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Because they're all in a room, in Dan Murren's garage at one point, and was like, hey, we can actually do this now. And they're like, this is going to change movies. George Lucas is like, I can do the prequels now. And then word got to Weta and to Peter Jackson, who was working on Heavenly Creatures around that time, who's like, I can do Lord of the Rings the way I wanted to do it now. And then you could see every movie thereafter tried to do VFX maybe way too much.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
And it arguably broke the industry in certain ways. But it was such a hit for Universal that they made Lost World, adapting Crichton's other book. And then also a big hit, also directed by Spielberg. Sam Neill and Laura Dern did not play a big role in that one. It was a Jeff Goldblum project at that point. Julianne Moore came in as his ex-wife. Vince Vaughn is in that film. It's a hit. It's pretty good. That movie slaps. It has a surprise kind of third act where Rexy is in San Diego.
Spoilers for this very old movie.
For this, 96, 97 movie. There was a third Jurassic Park movie, Jurassic Park 3, not directed by Spielberg, but executive produced by him, where Sam Neill comes back working with a family who's trying to find their son who was vacationing in Costa Rica, ends up on Isla Nublar with William H. Macy and Tia Leone are the parents in that movie. Not great, but not horrible. It just was a significant step down.
And then there was a big kind of like break from theatrical Jurassic Park movies, right? So what was your feelings when they rebooted it for the first time? They're like, we're gonna do Jurassic World, and it's got Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard.
At the time, when this was announced in like 2012, 2013, I was ready for it. I was so pumped. Despite the fact that I believe it was around 2007 or 2008, Ain't It Cool News, the new Rockstars of its time, it's still around, released this leak of a script treatment for Jurassic Park 4 that involved a genetics company getting a hold of the patent for like using robotics AI to super enhance the intelligence of raptors and make them super soldiers working for the government. And that got around and people were like, oh shit. And I was like, let's go. I was so ready for this. But yeah, they announced it. And I had liked what I knew about Colin Trevorrow because he had done Safety Not Guaranteed with Aubrey Plaza and Mark Duplass, I think. And I love that film. I love it so much. And I was like, I can't wait to see what this guy does next. I think the movie that came out, and I also just love Chris Pratt from Parks and Rec and from Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm like, I'm ready.
He was like proving to like be like he can like lead a franchise or a big movie.
But do you remember, you were online at this time, did the Pratt backlash begin before Jurassic World came out? Like, people were like, this guy, I think the announcement came out that he was going to be a young Indiana Jones and a young Han Solo. And we're like, you can't do everything, Pratt.
Exactly. I think that's what it was. It must have been like right after this. Because I think it was like, oh, fun to see Chris Pratt in Guardians. And then, then, okay, Jurassic World, and then all those rumors. That's right.
All the rumors. Oh my gosh. But I was excited for this movie because it seemed to get back to what I really loved about the 93 original, which is it's like kind of a commentary on theme parks and amusement and live experiences. And I just love that Michael Crichton original idea that he was just trying to he was trying to perfect with his original Westworld film in 1973, before HBO got its hands on Westworld, which is the experience of, all these boomer writers had taken their kids to Disney parks throughout the 70s and 80s. And they were seeing, it was right after Disney World came out in Orlando. And they're like, whoa, Disney is now just buying acres and acres of real estate. And these Imagineers seem to be like the cutting edge engineers of our time. And what if this nightmare scenario happened where you died in a park? Like, I think so many people started to have experiences where like, I'm super stressed out getting to this park. I'm spending a lot of money going to this park. My kids are freaking out. Like, what's the ultimate nightmare scenario? And so that's what Crichton came up with. And then Spielberg obviously attached to that. And then so Jurassic World seemed to get back to that idea. What if they could fully realize the park?
And there's something to be said about like keeping it simple, right? And contained in that kind of like area. And then the other two movies came out, not as big like critical successes, but they've earned a lot of money for Universal as well.
All three of these movies since 2015. So Jurassic World 2015 is the 8th highest grossing movie of all time. And that's insane that it made that much. And it's not like that came out, and then the two were commercial failures. Jurassic World Dominion made over $1 billion worldwide, and before that, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom made over $1 billion. And I think it's just like internationally, this brand is beloved by audiences. Everyone just loves dinosaurs. There's certain elements. It's not just the dinosaurs. There's like they're weirdly globe-trotting corporate thrillers now. Is where the franchise has evolved to, for better or for worse. And they delve into interesting sci-fi concepts of, you know, genetic cloning and experimentation and black market trading and animal abuse and environmental issues that just speak to a lot of audiences. But I think they have gotten so far away from what made that original 93 film so good. And to be clear, I do not like the 2015 Jurassic World movie. I was excited for it and was very disappointed when I saw it. And I liked, like, 40% of the movie, but 60% of the movie I just thought was overstuffed and just unnecessary for what this would be. And I also just thought there was so much overkill with, like, the slaughter of it. Like, I was really shaken by the assistant character who gets snatched by pteranodons. And then that sequence, I mean, I've gone back to it. Like, the actress really wanted this death, and she's like, please give me an epic death. And she got it. But it's just like, when you're watching the movie, frightening. And it's like, this character does not deserve it. She's just like verbally abused throughout the movie by her superiors and is stuck with these two kids. And then just has a horrific death that, like, is far worse, in my opinion, than what the lawyer, Gennaro, has to go through in the 93 one, who just, like, it's undignified. He's sitting on a toilet. The porta potty walls fall down. The Rexy bites him. But it's a quick death otherwise. She's just dragged through the water. The Mosasaurus jumps up and eats all of it. She's picked apart by different pteranodons. It's just unnecessary. But you do get in that sequence a wonderful Jimmy Buffett cameo as he's at the Margaritaville grabbing the margaritas to get to Safe Haven. One of the best cameos ever in a movie. So I thought it was a flawed movie, but worthy of $1 billion. And then I think the next two movies are just like not good. I think Fallen Kingdom and Dominion are not good movies, but I still love the brand so much. And what they accomplished in the 93 original film was just so good that like, I'll watch every Jurassic Park movie that comes out. I don't care.
I mean, so let's bring it back to this new movie, right? So Jurassic World Rebirth. When this movie was first announced, I think at the office, we've been talking, like, is this going to be a reboot? Like, how much of a reboot is this going to be, right? I feel like the first Jurassic World feels like a reboot in the sense that there's just so much physical time apart from those first movies, and also it was very removed up until, I guess, like the second movie they started incorporating other people, but then the third movie has all, like, these characters return, right, from the original franchise. So what do you think? Do you think they're shooting themselves in the foot by continuing this? I mean, something clearly works about the Jurassic World kind of, like, world, you know?
Yes, and it's the dinosaurs. I think specifically it's just a dinosaur movie that might have a music sting to John Williams music. And like, I think Universal's aware of this. When they announced this rebirth, they just had the four notes of the French horn, and then just people know. I played that, and then across our home, Kelly was with our kid, and she goes, why are you listening to Jurassic Park? I mean, she just knows this too. There's Jurassic Park is a movie that gets so much replay value at summer movie screenings, at like outdoor movie screenings and stuff like that. Like, I know people who watch it every year on Easter for whatever reason. It's just their tradition. That I watch it at least once a year, and I think that's really the value that Universal gets out of it. I don't know if they're shooting themselves in the foot. I think Jurassic World and then Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, billion-dollar movies. And I think what they have recognized is just like the star of this franchise is Rexy. That's the name that they've gone back to name the original Tyrannosaurus Rex in Jurassic Park. She is the hero. She is the kaiju of this franchise. I think the mistake they made with the past three films is trying too hard to make them like the Monsterverse films at Warner. And so I'm a little worried that they're bringing in Gareth Edwards, who did the 2014 Godzilla. I think he understands the scale, but I don't know if he understands the themes that made the original 93 work. And my hope is that David Koepp does.
So we can maybe find like the merging of two, right? Like Gareth to help bring this into like the more like modern era with like those original sensibilities. And also when you said Monsterverse too, I initially thought the like Frankenstein Monsterverse.
Sure.
I was like, I think Universal did that one and they didn't pull that one off.
You mean it's too similar to Tom Cruise screaming in the black of the C-17?
Oh God.
I think what we were thinking when we thought it was going to be a reboot is that Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard were not coming back.
Yeah.
And that it sounds like Laura Dern and Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum are not coming back either.
Right.
That was kind of the send-off was in Dominion.
Yes.
But when you watch Dominion, that movie is just so overcomplicated.
And no one dies, right? I think, like, or none of the main characters.
Yeah, none of the. You were hoping that like Ian Malcolm would.
Yeah.
You know,
kind of a Guardians of the Galaxy 3 problem.
Right. And if you're gonna have the send off, but I think they wanted to have other epilogue. I mean, obviously the villain dies, and I think when people think back on these movies, they forget how interconnected they really are with the original film. I mean, Dodgson comes back, right?
Right. Yeah,
and he was the guy with the Barbasol can with Dennis Nedry at the restaurant in the original '93 film, and he comes back now as the villain and the head of Biosyn. And I think the mistake, and I don't know if it's a mistake, I get why they did it, because in the 2010s, this was all the rave, is to like build these franchises with corporate espionage and their globe-trotting thrillers. And so you have like Biosyn, which was the rival company to the Engine in the original film. They are now kind of the big bad organization. And then they invented this character of like this silent partner to, and I can't even, what's his name? I don't, honestly, it's like the character who is like not that important, but he ends up being extremely important, who is John Hammond's silent partner. And people in the chat are like, how do you, Lockwood, God, that's like such a generic, whatever, old British evil Englishman name, who is John Hammond's silent partner, is revealed. And then his bloodline weirdly becomes important, which is just so stupid. He has this granddaughter, Maisie, who's a clone.
Who's a clone, And
it's just so weird. It's just like one of like 6 different unnecessary subplots.
So I worked press for that movie, for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and I was in the room when they were interviewing the director and the writer about that, the cloning thing, and they were like, all right folks, we gotta lock it down here, this information doesn't get out, this is like a big deal, it's gonna change the whole franchise, so like don't tell anybody. And then they're like, oh, she's a clone, and I was like, that's it?
You think that's gonna be the big hit?
Yeah, that's the big scoop. Okay.
I just think cloning, especially with 2019's The Rise of Skywalker, like just people are so tired of this. And I think the first 90, it's like, I look back at the 1993 Jurassic Park as like similar to the 1977 Star Wars. It's one of these cultural touchstones that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Yeah, sure.
And everyone has their way into it. Obviously, John Williams is the glue with that music. In both cases. But it's a story. It's like Steven Spielberg obviously had some amazing visuals, groundbreaking visual effects, and like prosthetic effects, stop motion animation mixing with the VFX was a big part of it. Stan Winston's practical effects of the first shot we see of Rexy eating the goat is a practical animatronic head that just looks good when they soak it with rainwater. You have this family dynamic with Tim and Lexi, and Alan Grant as the unwilling or hesitant father figure who has to keep the family unit together. Jeff Goldblum just gives an iconic performance. But I think at the heart of it all, yes, at the time in the 90s, cloning was a big subject that everyone had a lot of curiosity about. But really, I think at its heart, the most important scene of the film is the flea circus scene. It's John Hammond eating ice cream with Ellie, and talking about his failed dream for wanting to create. He's a Walt Disney analog, and that's, I think, was Spielberg's way into the story. Is he viewed himself as like a Walt Disney P.T. Barnum showman figure, and just wanted to give people a good show. And I think deep down he had some fears of like the technology he was unleashing into his industry. And since then, you can see him kind of grappling with, well, am I an Oscar-winning filmmaker, or am I like a VFX innovator? And he's got these two different paths that he's been jumping back and forth on. You have the BFG, the Tintin, and the Ready Player One path, and then you have the Fableman's West Side Story path, and he seems to be jumping back and forth in this weird way. And that split began with Jurassic Park. So I think that is what makes Jurassic Park such a legacy film, is you have these moments where the lawyer is saying like, we'll have a coupon day.
Yeah.
And that rings true with audiences now who feel this pressure, like, do we have to drag our kids to Disneyland once for their birthday in order to be good parents? And like, it's just so freaking expensive to go to Disney parks.
Yeah, it's so expensive.
And the way that has become such a dominating cultural issue is like our experiences going to these parks, not just Disney, but like, you know, Universal Parks and the Harry Potter land. And it has to be like a once in a lifetime investment that people make. And then when they get there, it's just kind of a disappointment. And I think that should be what this franchise goes back to. That is more relevant to audiences than like finding a mystery cure to some, you know, I think
something, which we can get into too. I'm curious to talk about that as well, but keep going, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's when I read this description, Scarlett Johansson plays like an expert covert operations leader. I understand that that's how you get her to sign on to this. Yeah. But like, that is not, it might be important set dressing. Yeah. But that's not, I think, ultimately what Jurassic Park
what drives the sure. So let's get into some of the characters and some of the things that are going to come out about this movie. But first I want to ask Eli Finelli, regular chatter, asking which characters do you think return in this movie? I mean, it seems like we already said like likely not out of anyone from the Jurassic World and Jurassic Park franchises. I mean, maybe you get a tease for Bryce Dallas Howard's character, Claire, like she shows up post-credit scene or something. I don't know.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I think they could part ways cleanly with everybody who was involved with these past few films. We don't need Owen or Claire back. We don't need Franklin back. As much as I like Justice Smith, we don't need his character in this movie. B.D. Wong is kind of the question, right? Because B.D. Wong is the one actor who's been in, I don't know if he was in Jurassic Park 3, actually, but he was in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and had a big role in Dominion. Yeah. And he seems to be the one who would come back for everything, but I just think he represents, like, the way they wrote his character was just like the types of things that the franchise did not need. I think we need an Imagineer. We don't need a cloner. We need someone who represents like the corporate interest to try to give people a good show. And I'm a little, like, it's interesting, they're simplifying things. It seems like they're going to go back to the Costa Rican coast, to Isla Nublar. They're just focusing on 3 of the largest ones, which I assume Rexy's going to be one of them. Maybe some version of the Indominus Rex is coming back from Fallen Kingdom, or from Jurassic World.
Where do you think Rexy's living?
I mean, Rexy's still around. Rexy...
But do you think Rexy, like, got, you know, where... If Rexy could live anywhere on Earth,
Oh, where Rexy would want to live? I think somewhere in the Yucatan or in Central America.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Isla Nublar would require her to swim back or hijack another boat like in Lost World and kill everyone on the boat, but she survives and it crashes into the coast. No one to hit the brakes on that boat surviving. It was just one of the craziest things.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like by saying that there's only 3 of the largest ones, we're not getting blue. We're not getting raptors. So I guess the question I have for Chad is like, are the raptors necessary to have? Because Jurassic Park had this kind of like 2-pronged attack of you had the big T-Rex somewhere in the tree line, but you also had these raptors who could break into kitchens and work door handles. And so that was like an iconic thing for a lot of people. And so do you have a Jurassic Park movie without raptors?
All right, let us know in the chat what you think. Do the raptors come back? Let's go through some of the characters that are going to be in this movie. So Scarlett Johansson is playing Zora Bennett, like Erik mentioned before, a covert ops expert who's been hired to lead the team extracting DNA from the 3 most gargantuan dinosaur species left alive. I like all your theories about which dinosaurs are left. I'm very curious what they do.
I guess that doesn't mean that we don't get raptors. That's just who they're focused on, and maybe they're
because they're trying to find these species specifically. Hold the key to a drug that will bring miraculous life-saving benefits to humankind. I'm so curious what the threat is. Is it just like, these dinosaurs can survive global warming and now humans need to too?
I just don't want like a COVID analog, right? Like, that's my fear by reading this plot description, is that they're trying to make it relevant to 2024, 2025 audiences by saying like, oh, we've all been like hoping to find a mystery cure for some kind of new mysterious ailment that's plagued our society, and I'm like, I don't want like this whole idea of like, oh, the return of the dinosaurs has unearthed this new bacterium or pathogen that only existed back in the Cretaceous era, and human beings aren't adapted to do it, so we need to go to these dinosaurs. Like, I guarantee you that's what it's going to be. It's going to be some bullshit like that.
And then they also unleashed the Thing, too. Right. Because the Thing was just inside the dinosaurs.
Right. So, so they need the dinosaurs in some way. But it sounds like there's also a missing family plot. Or,
we can get to that in a second. There's an interesting line in there as well. GSU Eagle saying, Raptor horror movie like Alien. Yes, classic. Yeah, of course. Bring it. Do it.
That's what worked about, the claustrophobic vibe of just being in a kitchen or being somewhere where like some animal, some creature is now hunting you. Yeah. It's part of what worked about the 93.
Yeah, 100%. Brandon in the chat saying Raptors are like TIE fighters. They gotta be there.
Yeah, agreed.
It's a pretty good analog.
Definitely.
All right, so Dash, bring on the picture. So we had Scarlett Johansson. We also have Jonatha Bailey as well. Playing Dr. Henry Loomis, who's a paleontologist. On the left there, that's Mahershala Ali, getting in some screen time before Blade. Playing Duncan Kincaid, Zora's partner.
Now, is this Mahershala's first movie since Green Book?
Oh, God.
Like, think about that. He was in a lot of things, then he was announced to be Blade, and then he has been, like, absent from movies.
I think you're right. I mean,
he voiced the character in Across the Spider-Verse. But
oh my god.
So I made a joke in Slack, and let's talk about the Slack, because we say things in Slack that you don't hear because I'm afraid how they'll play on the internet. But my joke is that shot of Mahershala Ali with the flare is what Mahershala looked like holding a sparkler outside Hall H, learning that Robert Downey Jr. bumped him from the lineup. Because our man is going to be in Jurassic World Rebirth, a movie we didn't know existed, before we see him as Blade.
Maybe that's why Blade was made. He said, hold on. If you guys don't know what's going on, I'm just gonna do this. We'll buy it. Everyone will have time. I won't bother you about it.
Frank Marshall's on the phone. I gotta take the call. And he's playing her, like the leader of her team or her partner on this covert team. Okay.
Yeah. So then we have other people on their team: actors Philippine Velge, Better Sylvian, Ed Skrein. And also Rupert Friend playing Martin Krebs, a representative of the drug conglomerate funding the expedition. Okay. So eventually the characters encounter the civilian family whose boating expedition was capsized by marauding aquatic dinos, at which point everyone becomes stranded on an island where they come face to face with a sinister and shocking discovery that's been hidden from the world for decades. Okay, my pitch, it's Hollow Earth.
No, Evan, no!
It's Hollow Earth! Kong comes out!
If they do that, they will be transparently proving our theory correct. That they're just following the steps. And they don't need to do that because Jurassic Park has meant more to society than well, I don't know. By making Jurassic Park, Spielberg was trying to make his King Kong, but like the 30s King Kong, not the original King Kong.
I like this note, Savvy389 saying, the Raptors have developed society. That's the discovery. There's a whole raptor city.
Raptors will learn. I will learn. I hope it's not... That's the thing. The shocking discovery, it's not going to be something about theme parks. It's going to be something about their DNA or someone still alive down there or something
It does feel like it's moving, more towards this like environmental message, obviously. And I'm very curious to see, if they can reconcile some of that original spirit. Like how can we bring that back in? Okay.
Let's play best and worst. What's the best option for what this shocking discovery could be, and what's the worst?
I mean, the worst is Hollow Earth, right?
Okay, you your worst is Hollow Earth. Okay. My worst is this. My worst is that they learned that John Hammond had cloned himself, and they used CGI to reanimate Richard Attenborough. Oh, and there's like this awkward, uncanny valley Richard Attenborough who's like, spad no expense, and it's like weird CGI VFX face, and they just pull some of that shit. God, if they do that, I will walk out of the theater. I don't need to see Richard Attenborough brought back to life that way. If you want to use archive footage of him like on a screen doing the whole dino DNA bit, like, that'd be fun.
I mean, I do wonder like what, how shocking and sinister could this be that it's going to change like their mission or like how they view. It's like, oh, we don't need this drug anymore because the whole planet's doomed, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, dinosaurs are the only ones who can save it. And because the reason I bring up the Hollow Earth thing is because, like, the fact that they're highlighting 3 dinosaurs around the world, it does feel like, these are the titans that are scattered around Earth, and now we've got to, like, come up with this way to, like, safeguard around them, but they're actually protecting us from a larger threat that looms beneath, right? Mm-hmm. And it does feel like, what could it be? And even if they clone if they clone John Hammond, would it be like, I don't know, what would he be doing? Like what?
Yeah, I don't know. Or he's got his little flea circus. He's like built like a small little flea circus, or he's trying to continue to build a park that people would come visit. Yeah, I don't understand. My hope is that, like, there's some kind of, like, corporate interest for entertainment that they're continuing to build there. Like, what my hope for, if it's not this movie, some future Jurassic Park movie, is that, like, it's some other theme park in some other part of the world. Like,
oh, sure.
We find out, like, the Russians have built a theme park, or...
and instead of dinosaurs, it's giant land sloths. And, like, just specifically mammalian creatures. And it's not, they're like, that's what gets butts in seats. Yeah. It's actually just giant mammals.
It's just like as exciting as the La Brea Tar Pits Museum is, which it is. It's like my favorite thing to do in LA, but I understand for most people, they're kind of like, this is a field trip. It's educational, not like a movie.
I think it's because just like for the La Brea Tar Pits, I just show up and I go, there they are. And I don't do like the tour or anything.
You gotta do the tour.
I know. I think I gotta do the tour.
So much fun.
I gotta do the tour.
Oh, it's so worth it. It's like the best. I don't know if it's like $35 or something. It's so cool because yes, you could just walk around the pits and they have like the fake mastodons and the elephants and the baby elephants. Like, Mama, no. But if you go into the museum, there's all these cool things you can do. You can see how thick the tar is that got stuck in, and just see how hard it is to pull it out and feel like a strong man pulling Excalibur out. You can go see them working in real time to clean these little fossils because they're still finding all kinds of shit every day.
Which is pretty cool, you know?
Really, and you can see their excavated site that they're actually working in outside, and they like cross-section it off.
La Brea Tar Pits, if you're watching, if this doesn't exist already, get a camera on the pits. Just 24/7
live cam on that's a great idea. Yeah.
24/7 live pit cam, do it.
And we'd be able to see which of the paleontologists are like flirting with each other, and there's all this like office romance in the lab.
Yeah.
Ooh, there's drama.
That should be the Office reboot, The Pits.
I would watch it. That would be like the #1 streaming hit. That would bump The Office.
It would. It would bump The Office.
Do it.
All right. Well, we still have to get into the best case scenario for that. For
I don't know
what they discover. We'll give us some time to ruminate.
Okay.
Eli Finelli asks, why do you think they're keeping the Jurassic World name as opposed to coming up with a new Jurassic title if the movie focuses on a new set of characters? I think that's really a really interesting thing. Is it business related, do you think? Is it just purely like, hey, we have this trademark, we want to do it, we want to keep working under this? Or is it just like, no, it's a continued world and it feels separate, and it's not a park anymore, right? Unfortunately, like really going in the face of everything you've been saying, but like, it's not a park anymore. It's the world, and that's why,
I think that worked in 2015, but it's like 10 years later at this point, and we're in a different place in our like lives, in our what we're interested in. So I think Jurassic Rebirth would be a better title than Jurassic World Rebirth.
Oh, 100%.
But the reason why they do it, it's just like Jenny Nicholson goes into this in her video. It's because they trademark Jurassic World, and just that phrase Jurassic World means something to the studio, and they believe that's where the value is. Yeah. And specifically, that's like international rights issues. Like Jurassic World means something, and I think if they were just do Jurassic something else, it just wouldn't be as valuable, they think.
For sure.
But I think it's stupid. I think the word Jurassic is what we all attach to.
And I think that goes into like the question too that Fexer had asked, like thoughts on this being a sequel and no longer a reboot. I think it's still gonna feel like a reboot, but it does feel. I mean, maybe I didn't say this earlier, but it does feel a little like maybe fresh slate would have been great. Just new slate, instead of just like a continuation in this way.
There were some people, I don't think this is true, but people showing that picture of Scarlett Johansson and the other guy and saying, wait, is this Tim and Lexi? Is it Tim and Lexi? It's like, no, their characters' names are announced. It's just they're thinking that Scarlett Johansson is playing the girl grown up. No, God, I hope that doesn't happen. But I believe Tim is like, that actor's continued to be in a ton of stuff, like Joseph Matarazzo. He was in Social Network. He played one of the other guys, one of their other roommates.
Yeah, he wasn't the guy who played the Winklevoss twin who got the face removed.
He was like the one who like Dustin, I think. He plays Dustin, who was drunk when he got there. And he was pitching the idea of Face Smash.
Okay, got it. Yeah. The Human Tornado 1 asking, what if they introduce all the giant bugs and animals from the dinosaurs' time? Does that notch, I mean, we were joking about that with like the Russians before, does that notch it that back into best case scenario that they discover this thing?
I think that's kind of what they did in Dominion though. Like the giant locusts were that. Right. It was like them trying to say, oh, you know, in the Kong movies, they have other giant creatures, other giant bugs. Yeah. And then so the locusts of the time are, you know, biome has not adapted that. I'm not interested in the other bugs as much. That's just me. I understand to each their own, but I don't want them to expand. I want them to get back to the simplicity of, you know, one of the great things about the 93 film is that they really just hand selected some of the more popular dinosaurs that looked more popular and they thought would be more popular to kids. And then Dr. Ellie Sattler was like, these creatures were separated by millions of years of evolution.
Yes.
The Cretaceous and Jurassic periods were completely different eras. So these plants are from one era that you just picked because they look pretty. Yeah. But like they're going to poison these Triceratopses. And so I think that I really liked about the movie is that like they didn't have to include everything. They could just include a handpicked thing. And that's one of the reasons it collapses and falls apart.
Yeah.
So that's what I want. I like that it's just like 3 specific dinosaurs and they're just going to be in the specific biome and they're only going to be on probably not Isla Nublar would be my guess. It's going to be some other island. Right. Like in Lost World. Yeah. Maybe they could go back to the Lost World island. That'd be fun.
Yeah. I also think another worst case scenario is if the sinister discovery is that with the dinosaurs returning, they've activated a beacon that is calling other dinosaurs from other planets to come to Earth. To inhabit the Earth.
That's been in those planets, Hollow?
Yeah. And now the dinosaurs can traverse planets. And then the end of the movie, it says Jurassic World. The world gets crossed out with some raptor talons. It's a Jurassic Universe.
No!
I think I'm coming up with a lot of worsts today, folks. A lot of worsts, no best.
No space.
I think the best case sinister shocking discovery is that it's just the humans all along that have been another biosyn like controversy or another company that has like been sending something in the air, putting something in the food supply to like, you know, harm the planet. And like we thought it was dinosaurs, but it was just humans again, you know?
What I hope is that the sinister discoveries, they go to some other island in that area and they discover that that island has actually been secretly turned into like a hunting ground for billionaires around the world. That you can just go here and it's like a zoological expedition that you can pay like $1 million if you're one of these like Russian oligarchs or Saudi princes or something like that. And you can go there and for a premium rate, hunt dinosaurs. And so that's like the disgusting thing. Maybe just like 0.01% of the world's population could afford to do it, but it's just one of these like black market things that people can afford to do. And you go and you hunt dinosaurs and it's like big game hunters and they're like, this is awful, but they're like, this is the way that we can like kill off the dinosaurs that are still here and they're now an endangered species and you can get some of that in there. So it is kind of like a theme park experience, but still able to get some of that commentary in there. Yeah. It's just limited to one island, and then you can do something like the most dangerous game.
And then they decide to bring the dinosaurs to the island to like wipe it all out. The 3 gargantuan ones. So and this can't exist.
Yeah, maybe there's like they've realized that dinosaurs are relocating to these climates, and there's just like a couple of these like there's still some very very rich company that's doing this on the side to help like reassure their shareholders or just to keep company cash flow coming in, and that's just like I like that commentary in the Jurassic Park movies. That it's about like theme parks and like how we spend our money and creepy ways that people get their kicks.
Yeah, like how far can entertainment go, right?
Yeah.
GCU Eagle asking, could they dip the trope of splicing human and dinosaur DNA to make a better species? What scenario does that fall into? I say notch it towards worst.
Yeah.
But not necessarily.
It's just a different movie. I think that's a different franchise. And I think that's just what like the 2010s were all about and trying to like explore the sci-fi concepts of cloning, and I'm just not interested in that.
Yeah.
Like, I think that just gets people farther and farther away from what they love about Jurassic Park. I think people go see these movies and made them $1 billion. That stuff just goes over their head. Like, they just don't care. That just gets them from A to B, from one dinosaur fight to another dinosaur fight. And no one remembers that shit. Like, after they see the movie, they're like, wait, what was the cloning science?
Right.
Thriller, drama stuff, they don't care about that.
Yeah.
So, but they do remember, at least I do, the flea circus monologue. And I think because people, like, in between seeing these movies do have experiences where they have to go to Disney parks or take their kids to Six Flags or something like that. And that is a part of people's lives. And I think that's what you need to remember.
Yeah. The Most Average Gamer 4 and Tankenstein42 reacting to my pitch before, just saying Jurassic Multiverse, that's the worst. Jurassic Multiverse. And also
a portal opens.
Tankenstein42 got it. Raptors roll out. Yeah, Transformers reference. Okay, so before we get into some more of these casual questions that we have, hey, it's Labor Day weekend in the United States. If you're watching this on Friday, August 30th through something, why don't you check out nerdride.shop. Right now there's a Labor Day sale. You can buy one, get the other 50% off. I'm what do the kids say? Dripped out in Nerdride gear right now. I've got a Breakroom hat. I've got a Groot shirt. And I've got my Choose Your Fighter tote.
A tote?
Oh my God. In this tote, you can hold things so crazy like a giant pen. And also, one second. The Shy Halud.
Oh no!
Incredible. So hey, check out nerdride.shop. You can also get this shirt as well.
I didn't understand Tenet. No one's gonna buy this shirt.
Incredible.
Because no one wants to walk around with the words. I didn't understand Tenet on their chest.
I would get it as a hat. I would get it as a mug. I would probably get it as a shirt, actually.
Would you get it as a tote?
Oh, yeah. That's a tote.
Oh, you got your KCRW tote? Well, I didn't understand Tenet.
Yes. I see you, a New Yorker tote, and raise you one. I didn't understand Tenet. Hey, so check out nerdride.shop where you can get the latest and greatest of all new Rockstars gear. Buying some merch is the best way to support all 3 channels in the new Rockstars network, so thank you so much. Okay. PathX Knight asking, did Evan just put his hand in there? Who used it last? I'll never tell. All right. Ryan Painter, regular chatter, asking, what's your favorite dinosaur? Do you have a favorite dinosaur, Eric?
My favorite dinosaur is the Stegosaurus.
Oh, nice.
I love the scene in Lost World with Julianne Moore. I just love the Stegosaurus. He's just very impractical. He's got the giant plates. But then he just has this extra thing that, for me, a kid in the early 90s, having this toy of just the spiky tail just feels like something like a natural Mother Nature add-on that is like understandably practical to how the Stegosaurus defends itself, but just like so random and weird.
So random.
And just feels like, oh, you have like, I had like a Batman motorcycle toy with a sidecar, and it just feels like a random sidecar where you can plug other random crap in there. I just love it. It's extra, and I love the Stegosaurus for that.
Yeah, I do wonder if when they were discovering the Stegosaurus, if the plate fossil was something else, and they just put it on the back there, and they're like, yeah, that works. And then the guy who like made that discovery realized too late, and it was like in all the papers. He's like, oh, I can't.
He can't go back. He died with that secret.
Yeah.
There's just another spiky thing that just hugged the tail of the Stegosaurus when the meteorite hit. And it just like stayed there.
Yeah, just stay there. Oh no.
Yeah, and they just thought it was part of its bones.
Yeah. Shri in the chat saying, if there was an I didn't understand Interstellar shirt, it'd be perfect to gift my dad on his 60th birthday.
Aww. We'll work on that.
Interstellar. Yeah. All right. Well, Interstellar coming back, theatrical re-release. I'm very excited.
It's gonna be fun.
Catholics Night in a similar vein. Oh, my favorite dinosaur, pterodactyl. Moving on.
That's a good one. That's a great one.
Catholics Night asking, what is the fleshiest dinosaur? Which is an interesting question because what do you think about the whole dinosaurs having feathers debate?
I think they did.
You think they did, like, more universally than the few that are like highlighted?
I think some did.
Okay, yeah.
I think they were more bird-like than they were lizard-like.
Yes. 100%.
I think, like, for what I love about the Jurassic Park movies, I think that's not what dinosaurs looked like. I think they looked something more that's hard for us to fathom. That they had these weird feather-like scales, and they looked very silly.
Yeah.
But big and terrifying. But like, think of a giant bird. That's terrifying. Like if I were chased by an emu, I would fear for my life. Like giant birds are, I think we all have that fear in our hearts, and birds will come for us someday. Yeah, and that's what dinosaurs are.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think as someone who's always wanted to fly, like have wings on myself, man, a bird would wreck me. All right, GSU Eagle. How many tiny... I really was hoping I could get through that as a big segue. GSU Eagle asking, how many tiny kisses in the new movie and from which dinosaur?
Okay.
Will a dinosaur give out a tiny kiss? My bet's on Beta gives one tiny kiss to Maisie. I'm saying it right now, Maisie comes back.
Maisie comes back and
Maisie
Beta comes back.
Yeah.
I think Mahershala Ali gives us a tiny kiss.
He
blows a kiss to the camera.
He takes the camera like Deadpool, where he like gives it the camera.
Little tiny kiss.
In another, it's Kelsey. I was chased by a peacock before. You have any relationship with peacocks?
Yes, I don't have a relationship with them, but if you go to the Arcadia, have you been there? Mm-hmm. The
Huntington Gardens?
Garden?
Yes, yeah.
Huntington Gardens. It's the one next to it.
Yeah.
It's really cool, and they have peacocks there. And if you go there during mating season, they just roam around.
Yep.
And then the males will just fluff their plumage to try to attract the hens. And they're not called girl peacocks. They're called peahens.
Peahens, that's right. I used to work at a little video production company in that same area. And you think the garage door rattling here is bad because of this raccoon. I mean, you've never heard a peacock go, it's terrible.
Constantly.
Absolutely terrible.
And that's their mating call, right?
They love it.
They're just trying to get to you to give you some tiny kisses.
I'm getting wrecked. Getting absolutely
wrecked by a bird.
What is this devolving into? Let's see.
I like it. I'm not complaining.
Okay. Something I think as we kind of like close round up here, I do want to talk about like the value of this IP to Universal. We've talked about this before. Universal, the theme parks have a lot of different things going on there. They obviously have, Simpsons, and they used to have some Marvel characters, but a lot of that stuff is being bought by Disney now. Mm-hmm. This is something that they own. Jessica pointed out in our meeting the other day that they like remade the whole Jurassic log plume ride into a Jurassic World theme thing. Yeah. I went around this time last year, and it's really nice, this seems like something they'll want to hold on to for a while, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, like this is probably their flagship IP, right? You talked about earlier, this is going to release in June or July of 2025, along with other big stuff, right? Like, do we think it's going to work? Big success for them?
I think it will. I think this will be $1 billion movie.
Yeah.
Just like it has some of the biggest stars in it. And if they just make a half-decent movie, Gareth Edwards is just such a good visual storyteller who understands scale. Mm-hmm. And he's going to give some jaw-dropping images that people are going to be like, you have to see this movie on big screens. And people are going to be like, but there's script problems, but there's concept problems. And they'll be like, yeah, but, there are a lot of those in every movie. So just go see this. I think David Koepp can probably write a pretty good screenplay. Mm-hmm. I think it has everything going for it. Mm-hmm. And Colin Trevorrow, I think just his relationship with the Jurassic franchise just was not my relationship with the Jurassic franchise.
Yeah.
And it worked for some people. I just think he was more interested in the sci-fi what ifs of like, what if corporate interests got involved in the cloning technology and the animal trading technology in ways that I just wasn't as interested in.
Yeah, sure.
And I hope that Koepp gets back to what worked about this. Mm-hmm. I think the biomedical angle is just the one thing that I'm just not that interested in. Like the miracle cure storyline.
Yeah, it's like...
I don't know. I could be proven wrong.
I want to know what the scenario is at the very least, right? I want to know what they're curing and why, and why dinosaurs have the key to that, right? Yeah.
What do you prefer? This movie as it's being pitched, or a prequel to the '93 film? Like maybe there was some other kind of experiment gone awry that John Hammond either didn't know, or maybe a story of just the hunters, the Shulta, and the hunter or the game warden named Joffrey or whatever, who was being eaten by the raptor. Was there some other incident, like a story that's kind of as small as John Carpenter's The Thing, with just a group of these hunters who are just trying to survive the night in Isla Nublar in the jungle? We know from the context of the first film that it was just one person who died because Gennaro was like, oh, the payout, the settlement, the legal settlement that we had to pay out to that family. Yeah. But could there have been some other people who died from just these raptors?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think we would suffer from a little bit of like the prequel problem.
Yeah.
But it would also have to be, and I guess in a weird Gareth Edwards reference, like a little bit Rogue One, where it's like nobody survives except for that one dude probably, or like, Yeah, I think I had never considered that before. It's really interesting.
Yeah, because Gennaro just said the family of that one person was suing. But what if there's like there's like a group of 6 other people, a nice mixed group of people, and some of them, they all die, or some of them get away, but none of them had families or something, or some of them might have been related, and then you just have like a group of them who are just trying to survive the night in a jungle as raptors are hunting them down, and oh god, there's also a T-Rex there. Like, I think there could be a great Jurassic story set during that night, you know?
Yeah.
Is it $1 billion movie? I don't know.
Yeah, but I think there's something really cool there. Also, another point that Universal has in favor of them with this movie and this whole franchise is that it's not something you need to do like a lot of homework for. You know? Yeah. It's like, you know that like even if you didn't watch the last movie, you're like, well, I'm gonna get a big thrill in the form of a dinosaur. As opposed to like any Marvel or DC movie where it's like, yeah, okay, I maybe tangentially know this hero. I don't necessarily know who they're fighting or what that form is gonna take, right? Like, I'm sure people went to see Eternals because it was a Marvel movie and was like, what am I watching? You know?
Yeah.
But you know, with the Jurassic franchise, I mean, they have lots of shows, but it's not like you have to watch those shows to like keep watching the movies. Or you don't feel like you're missing anything important, right? Those truly feel like additive as opposed to like necessary.
Yeah, let's compare it to the Monsterverse, the Kong, Godzilla movies. Going into those movies, do you think the people who watch them still do all the homework of watching the Monarch show on Apple?
Ooh,
Are they going on YouTube to watch new Rockstars videos or read like articles catching them up? Or are they just going to Godzilla x Kong just to see the kaiju fight each other?
Oh, man, that's a... let us know in the chat what you think. I'll read some answers in a second. Also, shout out McJackTack for reminding me about those 2 shows. In answer to your question, I was getting a haircut in New Jersey a couple weeks ago. And I was just sitting there, and you know, I've never been to this barbershop before, and I sat down, and the barber's like, they had a kids movie on for the kids watching, you know, the kid got his haircut finished, they left, and they're like, all right, what do we put on? And then some guy goes, oh, I heard that Godzilla -1 movie is pretty good. And they're like, oh, really? They're like, yeah, if you want to see like some Godzilla like attacks, like, yeah, we should put it on. So these New Jersey dudes all just started watching Godzilla -1.
I'm picturing all these guys in tracksuits, and it's like Tony Sirico from The Sopranos. He's like, it's a really good movie. I think you should watch it.
I mean, you're not that far off.
Chris Moltisanti is in the corner. And
I'll say it.
It's got the Godfather angle, and it's got the Saw angle. It's gonna make $1 billion.
I do think that a lot of people. All that to say, I do think people are probably a little bit more casual about these movies than because even when I went to go watch before Godzilla Kong, I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll watch like all the movies in the franchise. And I just watched the 2014 Godzilla one, and I was like, okay, that was it. And I could watch the rest, but I think I get it now. You know, like there's something about it where it does like each story like could be a little bit more self-contained, but like works in the sense that you're like, listen, that first Kong movie, like it's just fights. Yeah. You know, like Millie Bobby Brown is there, sure, but you're like, I don't care about this storyline.
I think that is the big difference, is they've had some amazing actors. Like the 2014 Godzilla had Bryan Cranston, Elizabeth Olsen, Aaron Taylor-Johnson. They were in a movie as a couple in the same year that they played brother and sister, a year apart.
When I was watching that and they were making out, I was like, when did same year.
This is odd.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they have Coach Eric Taylor and some of the other ones. Millie Bobby B is in them. Brian Tyree Henry shows up. Julian Dennison shows up. A great cast, but you don't think about those characters at all in between those movies. You do not care. I'm sure some of you out there do, but you don't even remember that those actors are in those movies. And that's, I think, the biggest difference with the Jurassic Park movies is like, you remember Sam Neill, you remember Laura Dern, you remember those kids, you remember Jeff Goldblum. But do you remember Owen Grady? Do you remember Claire Dearing? Do you even remember that those are their names in between those movies?
I sat here today trying to write the script, and I was like, okay, what is Bryce Dallas Howard's character's name? Yeah. And I couldn't remember. I literally couldn't remember.
I think people forget that Justice Smith is in these movies. Like, I think we forget that there was like a silent partner to John Hammond named Lockwood who had a granddaughter who was a clone. And it's just like, all of that is just so stupid and pointless that I think they got away from that. But there is an iconic like survival story of a family unit that existed in these earlier films, and Spielberg was able to replicate that for Lost World with Jeff Goldblum's daughter and with his ex-wife played by Julianne Moore. And I think that's just like, that worked. I think you can continue. You can find that again.
Yeah.
And you just have to keep it focused.
Yeah.
You have to limit the cast size. You have to keep the scale just focused to like a survival story. And I think Jurassic Park as a franchise has always had that over. It's also had an iconic score.
Yeah.
That despite a lot of the music in the Monsterverse movies being pretty good, I actually really like the music in the Monarch show. I thought that was pretty cool. It's just the characterization and the writing for the characters has not been as good. And I think, as fun as it was to have Wyatt Russell and Kurt Russell play these parts, it's just like the time dilation stuff was like fun to think about. But I think for people who watch those movies, they just don't think about those characters.
Yeah, I think I saw some stuff in the chat. Fundamentals podcast saying, I think it'd be cool to see a prequel set like in the 80s. Great. Yep. We were talking about that before. 100% agree. Also, Meek Jack Tag saying there's a Jurassic Park game that was announced and is being worked on. I think the premise is set after the first movie. So interesting. That I mean, you know, identifying that that's a good time period. For that.
It kind of feels like what Alien Romulus did so well, and just kind of set between Alien and Aliens. I feel like that's going to be the direction a lot of these franchises go. It's just like go back to that time period. And have another incident that happened.
GSU Eagle agreeing, disappointed with Monarch after Godzilla vs. Kong. Disappointed the concept of the show had zero implications to the movie. So maybe like more homework than you needed to do. Let's see. Hey, Kobe-Wan Kenobi, thanks for the gifts. Powerful Primate 26, thank you for resubbing. Thank you guys for the sub.
Thank you.
As we start to wrap up here, have you ever played Jurassic World Evolution? I think it's a game. I haven't played it.
I played the old, was it like Sega or PlayStation? There was like a Lost World game that was really freaking hard.
I played one on the computer.
There was like a PC
like a side-scrolling one. Wow. Core memory unlocked. Play that on stream before the movie comes out. All right, so one last question here I wanted to ask from Fundamentals Podcast. Do you all think, and this is a pivot, but we've been talking about Monsterverse. Do you all think Blumhouse will attempt to rebuild a new Monsterverse if Wolfman does well? So Universal failed or not failed, but they tried to start a collection of movies, a cinematic universe based on all the monsters they had in their like rights collection. Didn't quite take off. There's an iconic picture. What do you think? Could another? I think there's legs to that idea, right? Maybe.
Yeah, there's legs to it. I think just make good movies. Like just make them good. I think the Invisible Man movie that came out in 2020 was so good, and it just didn't need to connect to anything. Just make good movies. Like I don't need them to connect. Like I think that works for the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right.
Works a bit for Star Wars, but also just carries a big burden. And not all universes need to connect. I'm just so tired. Like I'll happily do the homework for you on YouTube. But is that what you want? Do you just want homework in between movies? Or do you just want to go to the movies and be transported for a bit and not have to think about anything and just have the movie, kind of take you along a ride?
I know. What was, I mean, like, can you recall like a non-IP mainstream movie that you've seen what was the last one that you really liked,
Oh, yeah.
It's tough. Like, I think for me, it's like maybe Nope, and I saw that like years too late. Like,
Nope was great. Nope was really, really fun. It's just, since having a kid, I haven't seen as many movies in theaters. I loved Nope. I loved Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, great. Guess how many times I saw that in theaters?
Let's see, I'm going to say 3.
5.
That's a lot for that movie. Now, that is an interesting movie I loved when it came out, and it was one of the first movies I broke down for the deep dive. Have you thought back on that movie since then?
I mean, after the 5 times, no.
I thought back on the story of the family in the laundromat a lot, and of the daughter talking to her mom. I don't think about like the bits and the Raccacoonie stuff as much.
But I think that is the what a tangent, by the way. But I think that's like a great thing about that movie is that like at the core of it still has that to fall back on, right? Like there is a very strong story that you do think about in that aspect, right? Like if you strip away all the bells and whistles, there's still that.
I think the movie suffers from the dubstep. Like dubstep, I think the Daniels. That was such a part of like their music video history. So they're like, of course, that's how we're gonna shoot this. But like, it just like makes the movie. It gives an expiration date. Because that's supposed to be the sequence that is like Marty going 88 miles an hour connecting with the lightning bolt. Like that's supposed to be something. And I just think when movies take contemporary music styles. It just like hurts the movie. Like,
Sure.
I think 10 years from now, people are gonna like cringe when they see that. But whereas, you know, Alan Silvestri composed like an all-time jammer to score Marty going down the street in the Hill Valley Town Square, and that movie will live on for decades and decades because of it.
Yeah. I think the real reason I haven't thought about that movie is because if I did, everyone would be like, "Oh, Evan, you look like you've been crying a lot recently."
You don't have the emotional bandwidth to revisit.
I mean, I don't.
I feel it. Yeah, but I think later that year was Nope, and Nope was like the last time I think I saw a movie in the movie theater that was like original concept, not a reboot, not based off of any book or IP.
Yeah,
that was just blew my mind.
By big studio too, I think. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, Universal.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I will always respect directors like Jordan Peele and even M. Night Shyamalan for always like wanting to come up with a new concept, as new as they possibly can.
Yeah.
I know Shyamalan has done some adaptations of stuff, but Jordan Peele, just keep doing original stuff, please.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on Jurassic World Rebirth?
I can't wait to see it. I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, right.
At some point, there's gonna be a trailer.
Watch it, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's just gonna be awesome. You're gonna get some trailer with some iconic lines from Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali, and it's just that trailer's going to like. I remember the trailer for Fallen Kingdom, and I was like, this is a good trailer. Like, this is great. And all it was just like Jeff Goldblum testifying in front of the Senate, and then you had like Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard crawling around in some weird mansion. I was like, I don't know, I'll watch this movie. This is great. All right, let's not forget, Jay Bayona had a great shot in Fallen Kingdom where you see the Brachiosaurus on the dock as they're going away from Isla Nublar.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like the saddest shot in any of these movies.
God.
It's so good. So these movies can still come together to make something wonderful.
Yeah.
And so I'll always line up to see them. I will just gripe if they reanimate John Hammond. I'm gonna be so mad if they reanimate Richard Attenborough. If you're a VFX worker, be a whistleblower. Sound the alarms. Don't let Universal try to do this, because I swear to God, like they keep doing this.
Yeah,
they did in Alien Romulus. They did it in the fucking Ghostbusters movies. They did it in The Flash. Stop doing this. I don't care if the widow says it's okay. It's gross and weird and awful.
Yeah,
don't do it.
Not great.
I'm warning you, Universal. Don't do it. We're a year out.
I'm just
I
hoping.
will lose my mind.
I'm just hoping, Mahershala Ali and Scarlett Johansson, they're like, watching these dinosaurs, and then Scarlett Johansson's like, all right, I've got to try it. And she like pulls out this like new device that's gonna like get the DNA or whatever, and he goes, "Sure, you're ready for that?"
Natasha Romanoff.
Hey, that's it for us today. Make sure to subscribe to the Breakroom channel on YouTube for more videos like this, and give us a follow on Twitch where we do videos like this live. Stay tuned for all the great things coming out on New Rockstars and the Breakroom in the next couple weeks. Agatha's coming out, and there's a lot of fun stuff in these new teasers, so can't wait to keep talking about it. Thank you all so much, everybody, for watching. Bye.
Bye.